It took her almost 3 days to arrive at Grayson's palace, and of course, on the last day, it decided to pour down. Usually it took longer, but since she was alone, she could move at the pace she and her horse could handle. She leaned down, whispering in his ear, "Don't worry, boy. Once we reach where we're going, I'll get you the best meal and give you a good grooming." The large black stallion snorted at her, shaking water from himself. About an hour passed before Saleen caught a glimpse of light in the distance, and then the palace came to view. She squinted her eyes, seeing silhouettes as she got closer to the gated walls leading to the palace. She pulled the reins, bringing Zen to a halt. "You guys didn't need to wait in the rain for me." "Good day, Princess Saleen. Princess Valerie sent a message to us saying that you had left without your father knowing and would be arriving soon." Saleen laughed softly. "Still trying to take care of me, I see." She sighed. "Well, here I am. Would you mind if I go get cleaned up first before meeting with King Grayson?" They simply stared at her. She was about to repeat her question when a familiar voice spoke. "That won't be needed, Sal." She twisted slightly on her horse, only to have arms pull her down. Whoa! She clung to the person pulling her down out of the sheer fact she didn't feel like eating mud, her hazel eyes meeting ice blue ones that seemed to hold laughter. "Grayson?" He smiled, and damn if it didn't stop her heart. "In the flesh. I have to say I was a bit surprised when I heard you were heading here without any sort of escort. While I know you can take care of yourself, I don't want my bride-to-be getting hurt." Saleen gently smacked his arm. "Then please release me. I still have some wounds that haven't healed up yet, and you're hugging me far too tightly." He released her in seconds. "Sorry, I was just glad to see you again." She was shocked at how happy he was to see her. She hadn't known what to expect, really, but having such a warm welcome made her forget the chill of the rain. Something about Grayson made her feel relaxed. "Can we move out of the rain? I'm sure the others would be more comfortable." Grayson glanced to his people. "You heard the lady. Let's move inside, everyone." They nodded, smiling at Saleen when she walked by. What she saw was all pretty standard for a palace entrance. There were clear paths for those who arrived in carriages, and a large stable to the left. Zen was happily following a stable boy who had a carrot. She smiled slightly. "I see Zen will be in good care." Grayson chuckled. "I remember you charging forward on that horse several times in battle." "Yes, he may be getting old, but he is strong, and I trust him with my life like I would any comrade." Grayson nodded. "Hard not to bond with those creatures when they've seen you through war. Don't worry, Haddon is the best stable boy we have. Zen is in great hands." "I wasn't worried. Well, maybe just a little. But since your people waited outside for me in the rain, I know they are trustworthy and loyal to you." Towels were brought to them as soon as they stepped through the doors of the place she would now call home. "Master, food will be done within an hour. If you and the lady would like to take your time getting cleaned up and relax a bit." Grayson nodded. "Thank you, Marcus." Though his attention didn't last long on those around him. "So why didn't your healers heal you? As royalty, you should have been healed first." "There were others who were in worse shape than me." It was a lie, and he saw right through it. He grabbed her chin, tugging it upwards. "Don't lie to me." Saleen sighed, stepping away from him. "That... There's something that I need to talk to you about, Grayson. And to be straight to the point, it concerns wiping out my father." Those around them gasped, staring at Saleen as if she'd grown another head. "You know who started this war. It was my father. He needs to be taken out. I've already talked to my sister about this, and she will side with me." She bowed her head to Gray. "I need your help finding solid proof so we can kick my father from the throne with little to no deaths on our part." He was quick to bring Saleen up from her bow before glancing at his people and waving them away. "Please don't bow to me, Saleen. You are to be my wife soon, and as my wife, if you're still hoping to better your old home, then I will help you." She smiled warmly. "Are you sure?" His heart pounded in his chest as he forced himself not to pull her into another hug. He settled for smiling. "Yes, I will help. After I met you that day, I became curious and looked into information about you. I found out some unpleasant things and how you were never treated as a princess. I have to say, the first time I saw you on the battlefield, I paused. That was the first time anything like that had ever happened. Saleen frowned. Not everyone was rude. My knights treated me well. I simply hadn't noticed that they cared until I left. They would be more than willing to help us overthrow my father. Grayson sighed, running a hand through his hair. Okay, we will talk more about this after we've gotten cleaned up and you get healed. I don't like the idea of you being hurt while living here. It's nothing. I'm used to not being healed. Those words only angered Grayson. It shouldn't be nothing to you. She gave him a somewhat bitter smile. If he knew of the existing scars on her, how would he react? She frowned. He would find out. They were to marry, and there were certain responsibilities that came with that. Well, let's go get cleaned up so we aren't standing here causing even more work for the servants. He nodded, waving a maid forwards. Show Saleen to her room and help her prepare for dinner. Please follow me, my lady. She nodded, following the young woman. Can I ask what happened? The woman asked before correcting herself. I'm not trying to be rude, my lady. It's just that our master is correct. You shouldn't be used to not being healed. Any time the master returned, he was always healed first, even if he tried to refuse. Saleen sighed. As he said before, I was never treated as a princess. If anything, I was treated like a slave. How? There shouldn't have been anyone who could treat you like that. Saleen glanced around. You aren't scared to ask such things so openly? What if I wanted to punish you for disrespecting my privacy? The servant paused, bowing. Please forgive me. I've been dealing with men's mannerisms for far too long, my lady. It is a pleasure to meet you, Princess Saleen. I am Bimmy. I am to be your personal maid while you are here. I'm hoping you will feel comfortable talking with me, as I will never tell the master your words, unless I fear it may concern your life. Saleen was rather surprised at how straightforward the servant was. It was a pleasant change. If you are dissatisfied with me, then you can punish me as you see fit and replace me. Saleen shook her head. I would never do that, Bimmy, even if I'm to become your second master. If? Are you saying you wish not to marry our master? Despite the rumors, my lady, our master is a very kind man, and he... Sal smiled softly. I didn't think he was a bad man to begin with, Bimmy. I am worried he won't be pleased with having someone like me as his bride. Why? Does it deal with how you were treated? Trust me, we would never treat you like that. Our master was so happy when you accepted his proposal. It was the first sign of true emotion from him. When I accepted his proposal? I thought he accepted me instead of my sister. Bimmy frowned. My lady, the master sent the proposal for your hand. He wanted you, not your sister. I'm not sure how there was such a mix-up. Saleen frowned as they came to a stop in front of two black doors. My father... Bimmy sighed. Let's not talk about this for now. I hope you will enjoy your room, my lady. We were told that you enjoyed simple colors, so we went with a white, black, and gray theme. Saleen laughed softly. I take it Grayson told you this. Bimmy nodded, opening the door to a rather large room. Sal stared at the lavish room. It was much larger than the servant room she had been sleeping in at her palace. She didn't know where to look first. It was clean. Dark gray marbled floors spanned out underneath them. Even the walls were a pleasant dark gray with white trim matching everything perfectly. To the right she could see the bathroom. There was a large bathing pool and one of the newly invented showers. Just outside the bathroom, in the right corner, was a large bookshelf filled with a few books and then a desk. On the other side of the room was a large canopy bed. The framing for the bed was black, while the sheets were a mix of gray and white. The entire room looked like no one had ever set foot in it. It was also too much. Is there another room available? Do you not like this one? We have a more colorful room to the south, though it's much larger than this one, as it was the room of the late king and queen. Saleen shook her head. No, I was While hoping you had a smaller room I could stay in. A smaller room? My lady, the only small rooms are the quarters where we servants sleep. That would be fine. I'm used to that. I don't think I'd be able to sleep in such a large room. Bemmy was appalled. You slept in a servant's room when you lived at home? Saleen frowned. Master had informed us that you weren't truly treated like a princess, but I don't think he knew it was this bad. My lady, this is your room, and you will sleep here as it is suited to you. We will not allow our future second master to sleep with us in our smaller shared rooms. Was this how it felt to be treated as a princess? Sal wasn't sure. You don't have to be so formal with me, Bimmy. I would like to talk to all of the servants of the house in a comfortable manner. Bimmy frowned. If that is your wish, we can grant it. But to have you sleep in the same chambers as us, that cannot be allowed. Saleen shook her head. I will let the subject drop. Don't fret over it. But I must say, if I wander there in the middle of the night, it would be out of habit. Now, if you will let me, I'd like to take a bath on my own. Bimmy sighed. Please allow me to help. It is my job, after all. I want to bathe on my own. I have never once received help, and I don't need it now. Bimmy flinched. Yes, my lady. Saleen. Pardon me? Saleen groaned. I just told you to talk to me comfortably. Call me Saleen, please. Bimmy nodded. When we are in private, I will call you Saleen, but until the master approves of us calling you by your name, I cannot do such in public. Saleen ran a hand over her face. She was honestly starting to miss how her knights had treated her. Sure, they had held respect for her as their leader, but they were also relaxed with her. Fine, I will talk with Grayson when we dine together. Bimmy turned, leaving the room, the silence seeming to echo around her in the large room, and she oddly felt cold. Shivering, she began undressing, the wet clothes clinging to her body. She moved to the bathroom, running the water till it was warm. She looked at a few bottles that read scents, picking up the lavender one as she waited for the pool-like bath to fill. She didn't notice that Bimmy had returned until there was a shattering noise. Saleen turned sharply, ready to attack, but only found Bimmy staring at her in horror. It looked as if Bimmy was about to scream, and Sal rushed over, covering her mouth. Please don't. Bimmy trembled, tears welling up in her eyes. My lady, you're back. Bimmy began to cry, and Saleen gave her a soft, bitter smile. This was why I didn't want you to help me bathe. It's bad enough Grayson will see these. What did they do to you? Saleen stepped back, glancing to her reflection in the mirror, the scars showing well even against her lightly tanned flesh. My father hated me. I was a thorn in his side. He thought he could whip me to death when I was 13, but I refused to die. After that, he'd regularly beat me. A lot of the scars on my body were there before I was sent off to war to be slaughtered. Sal's voice was devoid of emotion, and it broke Bimmy's heart. Was this why you said that earlier? Saleen's nod made Bimmy's legs grow weak. She walked over to the pool, sliding into the waters and letting the heat take away the ache in her body. Most men wouldn't want a woman like me who is riddled in such scars. I'm sure once he sees my body, he will turn me away, demanding a divorce. He isn't like that. Sal was surprised at Bimmy's raised voice. She covered her mouth. Sorry, I will take any punishment for yelling at you, she said with a bow, but Saleen began to laugh. My lady? Saleen smiled softly. What have I told you? Sorry, it will take me a bit to get used to calling you by your name. Saleen touched the bottled scents. What is Grayson's favorite scent? Bimmy looked up excitedly. Lavender is one of his favorites, along with honeysuckle. Lavender it is. I would like to request a lavender honeysuckle scent be made if I could. Bimmy nodded. Of course. Sal waved Bimmy over. You may come help me as long as you don't start crying again. Bimmy held a look of determination. You can count on me. At least that's what she claimed. Only 10 minutes had passed by, and Bimmy had begun crying again. I'm sorry, it's just... Some of them are so deep. How did you endure such torment? How could you fight for your father with how he had treated you? Bimmy asked as she gently pressed a washcloth to the scars. Because I wanted to protect my people. Bimmy could hear the softness in Seleen's voice. I'm glad we have you as our new second master. You will bring about great changes once you and the master settle in. Please allow all of us to take care of you as you should have been, and as I know you will take care of us. There was a small splash in the water, making Bimmy move. Oh dear, I didn't mean to make you cry, Saleen. I didn't offend you in some way, did I? Saleen touched a hand to her cheek, feeling the warm liquid that spilled from her eyes. How long ago had it been since she had actually cried? Had it been after the second beating she had taken from her father? Yes, that sounded about right. Saleen began to laugh weakly. My lady? Saleen? Are you okay? Are you in any pain? Please tell me what's going on, Bimmy asked, getting more panicked by the second. It's fine, Bimmy. Bimmy looked at Saleen worriedly. Are you sure? I can go get you a doctor. We can keep it a secret if needed. Saleen shook her head. No, there's no need for that. I'm not in pain, just... I noticed that I've gained something I lost a long time ago. Thank you, Bimmy. Bimmy seemed lost. I don't think I gave you anything. Please stop crying, or I will really go find a doctor. I have to get a healer as is, so... Saleen frowned. A healer. That means they will have to see the wounds. I have one in mind if you don't mind tracking her down. Bimmy nodded once more. We can find the healer for you if you would like. Is she one who could stay silent about your scars? Saleen groaned. At this point, why keep it a secret? I might as well use these scars against my father. I know once things start turning to crap, there will be a few servants at the palace that will try and save their skin, vouching for how my father beat me. There was a cold, bitter smile on Seleen's face. However, that won't truly save their lives. Bimmy huffed. Their lives don't deserve to be saved if they didn't bother to help you, and anyone can tell by these scars that they didn't. How were you able to survive? I wasn't fully alone. There were a few healers that tried helping me, but if they ever got caught, my father killed them. After that, my sister did what she could, as did Katosh. I hope he's doing okay. Katosh? My lady, did you have someone you loved? She couldn't help but laugh. Me? Love Gat? Not in a million years, at least not in the manner you were thinking. Gat is like a brother to me, someone I could rely on to give me strength, someone who was always there for me in my times of need, and I think I hurt him a great deal by leaving the way I did. I should show him first. Bimmy glanced at Saleen. I'm afraid I don't follow. Saleen gave a wiry smile. Grayson, he should be the second person here to see these scars. Bimmy pelled. Oh dear, that will likely send him overboard. Saleen nodded. Yes, and he will target you for keeping it a secret for even a second. Bimmy shivered. I will do whatever you ask of me, my lady. Unless it's calling me by my name, she said jokingly, making Bimmy blush slightly. It's hard to do. Saleen laughed softly. Don't worry about Grayson. When it comes to that point, I will protect you. With that in mind, I would like to wear my riding clothes, as it would be easier to take off. No, you can't. As this is your first dinner, you need to wear a dress. I already had one in mind, Bimmy said with a smile, making Sal rather nervous. An hour had passed since Saleen had arrived, and Grayson sat in the dining room, staring at the seat next to his. He was doing his best not to force his feelings onto Saleen. He hadn't expected her to bring up overthrowing her father right away. Honestly, he had hoped they could have some personal time, getting to know each other better. He was pulled from his thoughts as the scent of lavender wafted into the room. His eyes flew up from the table to land on Saleen. She was in a simple blue rose patterned dress, her face flushed with embarrassment about having been dolled up in the first place. You look amazing, Saleen. She ran a hand through her hair nervously. I told her I was fine wearing pants, and, well, she wouldn't listen to me at all. He couldn't help but laugh slightly. I figured Bimmy would be more suited to your taste. She's loyal to a fault and stubborn enough to share her true thoughts with you. He certainly wasn't wrong about that. Bimmy didn't hold back her thoughts in the slightest. Not that it bothered her. She was glad to have someone who had the will to stand up to her if needed. It reminded her of Gatosh when she would bring up a dangerous plan. Saleen headed over to the seat next to Gray's, but her ankle gave way in the heels she had been forced to wear. The only reason she let Bimmy put this stuff on her was because Bimmy said it would catch Grayson off guard. The thought made her curious. Right now, though, she felt like a fool. Grayson was there in seconds, his arms circling around her like a warm protective coat against winter. Are you all right? His grip was firm but gentle, his way of making sure he didn't hurt her again. Yes. She glanced at the table, afraid to see the look on his face. Just not used to these hills. Put me in a mud-filled, rocky slope and I'm grand. Put me in hills and, well, I walk like a newborn fawn. Grayson chuckled once more, making Saleen's face grow red. You'll get used to them with time. I doubt that, she said dryly. He let her go, but kept a hold of her hand. Allow me. She didn't refuse his help to her seat, sitting down with a sigh of relief. How do women walk in these things without breaking their necks? Grayson shrugged. I have no idea, but I do find it cute that you're struggling with such a thing. Saleen scowled at him, but it only made him laugh more. I bet you couldn't walk in them even if you had a month's worth of practice. He lifted a brow quizzically. Is that a challenge? It can be if you're up for it. It was surprising how well they connected. They began laughing together before beginning to eat. The servants watched the two silently, only moving in to refill drinks. The two of them talked about battles, things that could have been done better, even talked about their lives outside of war. Much to Saleen's surprise, Grayson was a rather busy man, handling the kingdom on his own. What didn't surprise Grayson, though, was Saleen's everyday life, how she was treated. It made him mad to the point he wanted to go and take down the king of Hestella right away. She was quick to shift the focus onto their nights, which somehow brought them to a dead silence when she mentioned Gatosh. There was a torn look on Gray's face that confused her until he began to talk again. Am I stealing you from the man you love? She choked on the wine, almost spewing it all over the table and Grayson. God, no! Confusion marred his face now. Then why do you seem so fond of this night? Saleen chuckled, feeling like a messenger bird on repeat. Because he is like the brother I never had. He was my guiding strength. If I missed something, he pointed it out. He was there when my world was crumbling, and I knew he'd always have my back. Grayson felt a pang in his chest. Even if she claimed the man was like a brother to her, the affection and trust she held for Gatosh bothered Grayson, because he wanted to be that support for her, but more. Can I take his place? The words slipped from his mouth, and he blushed. Not what I meant, Saleen's bubbly laughter filled the room, making Grayson's face turn a shade darker. You want to be my brother? No, I just want you to depend on me as you would him. I want you to look at me with affection. He had never felt so embarrassed. He could see the smirks on the servants' faces, and that just furthered his embarrassment. He felt like a little kid again. I think that can happen. With time. I already know you are a person of your word. Here I am to marry you, and you haven't taken back your word of peace. Grayson nodded. I would never do that. There is no point in useless bloodshed, though I must say your father agreed to this rather quickly. What if I had planned to kill you? He was hoping you would. The words ran over Grayson's skin like ice, biting into him. What? A coldness filled the room in an instant. Just as I said. She took another bite of the dessert, staring at him, her eyes never once wavering. They didn't show fear. They were simply forlorn, making him wonder how many times her father had wished for her death. I'll kill him, he said bitterly. That was the plan, but we need to go about it legally. Are you fine with your father dying? He asked, having a hard time believing her. Most of the time, women cared about their father or spouse far too much. Even his own mother hadn't blamed Grayson's father when he had killed her youngest son, so it was odd for her to be okay with her father's death. He noticed Bimmy step forward, a worried look on her face as she stared at Saleen. Saleen sighed, no longer in the mood to eat the wonderful dessert in front of her. I am more than fine with him dying. I would have killed him already if I knew it wouldn't backfire on me. My lady, shall we show him in a more private setting? Confusion crossed over Grayson's face, but he stayed silent. Here is fine. It would be best to get it out of the way. The others can leave for a bit. Did you find the healer? Yes. Grayson watched as Bimmy shooed everyone out of the room and brought in a woman he hadn't seen before. Greetings, King of Bronste and future Queen of Bronste. My name is Hestella. I'm a healer from town, but I work hard and have taken care of many wounds that should have caused the deaths of our people. I hope you will be satisfied with my services. Bimmy, you did wonderful. Thank you, and thank you for coming on such short notice, Hestella. I had heard of your services before I came here, and I figured if anyone knew how to help further heal scars, it would be you. Hestella nodded. Yes, there is a way to heal scars, but may I ask why you need such? As a princess of Hestella, the healers should have healed you first, and then your knights. Bimmy locked the door so no one could walk in before walking over to Saleen and unlacing the back of the dress. Grayson stood, moving towards the two. What are you doing right now, Saleen? We aren't even married yet. He was torn between wanting to be embarrassed and a sinking fear he was about to see something he wouldn't like. There was a gasp in the room as Saleen's back was shown to them. By the gods, what have they done to you, child? The old healer asked, staring at the scars in horror. They all jumped when something shattered behind them. Who? Anger filled every inch of Grayson's voice, his eyes glaring holes into Saleen's back. Who did that to you? Who am I going to kill right now? Bimmy frowned. Who else could have gotten away with this kind of thing? It was her father. Bimmy flinched when he walked towards her. You knew of this for how long and didn't inform me? He reached out to grab the girl by the throat, but was stopped by Saleen. Stop. She grabbed his hand with both of hers. His strength was hard to match when he was this mad, but with nothing holding up the front of her dress, it slid down, and Grayson got an eyeful of her breasts, his anger and strength seeming to slip away. She would have panicked if it weren't for the fact that he averted his gaze instantly. You yourself said that you made Bimmy my personal maid because of her ability. Bimmy is not to blame for these marks on my back. I asked her to wait. I didn't plan to hide this from you. Grayson grinded his teeth, and Saleen let go of his hand, turning her back to him. I have to apologize to you for marrying someone who is scarred like I am. I'm honestly ashamed of my body, and I was somewhat scared that if you knew of these scars, you would get rid of me. She sighed. Bimmy told me you weren't like that, and... Hestella and Bimmy stayed silent as they watched the two. Much to their relief, Grayson moved towards Saleen. I wouldn't turn you away because of scars. Hell, I figured you would have a few with the amount of battle time you've faced. But I never once thought that this... He gently touched her back, making Saleen shiver, his hands tracing over the different scars. I never thought you had gone through something like this, Saleen. His voice was gentle, as if he were talking to a child that would fall apart. Another shiver raced up her spine, not used to someone tracing the scars on her back with such a gentle touch. We will get every person responsible for this, and they will be killed. Saleen turned to look at Grayson. That was my plan from the start. Her gaze, steady and cold. taking him back to the first time he saw her on the battlefield, strong and beautiful. Are you still here? If so, you're awesome. I'd like to say thank you so far for following along with this story. Everything about this is new to me, but I hope you are enjoying this so far. If you haven't already, like, comment, and subscribe. Hope to see you in part 3. Bye!